Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, creators, thought leaders, you name it, all around the world in crypto and blockchain. And I have an amazing guest for you today. I'm really excited about this one because I don't talk about gaming too often, and I should. His name is David Johansson. He is the founder and the creator of BLOCKLORDS. David, welcome.
Hey, Jamal, great to be here. Really excited.
Thank you for joining me today. So we'll kick things off and ask you first, what is your background? And is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I certainly think it's logical. Being in the creative industry, there's a lot of winding paths, but it brought me to where I am. So I definitely think it's the only logical one. Yeah, so I'm from Sweden, so I live in Stockholm, Sweden, but I'm actually half French, so I grew up all over Europe. Actually went to film school in the US, so that's why I have an American twang to my voice. Went to San Diego State University where I studied film and ended up working in Hollywood a few years. So I started my career in the film industry, and my time in Hollywood and with filmmaking has definitely informed a lot of not only my philosophy and how I make games, but also how I approach building an IP, building a brand, and yeah, essentially everything I do in Web3 and in gaming is definitely marked by my time in Hollywood and my early days working in the entertainment industry. After Hollywood, I ended up leaving to China to work there for a while and started in film there as well. But that's when I made essentially the move towards gaming. This is like early 2010s, so 2012, 2013, right as free to play gaming was really starting to take off in the West. And these Chinese companies were really well positioned to essentially have successful products on platforms like Facebook or the app stores as mobile was really starting to take off and as social gaming was really taking off as well. So I worked all over China with a number of studios and essentially helped them release their games for Western markets. As I was doing that, I was learning a lot and exploring a lot of creativity in releasing games with extremely complex digital economies, but that still kept users engaged for a long time. And that kind of transitioned perfectly into Web3 because I discovered Bitcoin in 2017, fell in love with it, kind of joined as a retail investor at first. And yeah, as soon as it clicked in my mind, oh, this is how blockchain works to me, with a gaming background as I had, there's just no doubt. Gaming and crypto are forever linked. This is going to be the user acquisition linked. This is going to be the way to give gamers value for the time and money that they put into their games. And so, yeah, I really never looked back. So we started the company in 2018, and there's been a lot of ups and downs since then. But yeah, I would say that that's what brought me here today, and it's a pretty exciting journey to have been on.
Wow. I don't usually have a follow-up after I ask people about their background, but I do. It's a lot of people's dream, to get on that stage on Oscar night and get an Academy Award, right? And you left the film industry and went into gaming. Like, what was your calling to get into gaming instead of being in Hollywood?
Yeah, I think it's a number of reasons. I definitely loved my time in Hollywood, and I really enjoyed it. At the same time, working on the come up in Hollywood is just not that thankful of a task. I don't know if you know that world, but it's pretty gruesome. I was an assistant, so I learned the hard way. What it takes to be in Hollywood, and I did want to stay. When I was there, so it was a hard choice to go to China. I think if I'd had the choice to stay, I probably would have, but because I was a foreigner, so I had a visa that was limited, and I decided not to overstay my visa or anything like that. So I ended up going to China, and China was pretty amazing experience. And as soon as I got into the gaming industry, I'd been playing games my whole life, so I would say that my passion for gaming was always deeper than my passion for films, even though I loved also filmmaking and I love visual arts. But I would say, as someone who's I've made films, I've directed theater, I did quite a lot of theater work in China as well, along with gaming. I've done music quite a lot. When it comes to gaming, it is actually the most challenging art form. It's people think it's hard to make a movie or hard to make a play. Making a game is 50 times harder, essentially. And if you're, I mean, as an artist, as a creator, you're always looking for challenges. And I can tell you, there's nothing harder than making a game And there's not, and the only thing that's probably harder is making a blockchain game. So if you know, as a creative, you're always looking to get challenged, and gaming certainly does that. And I would also say that gaming is the most immersive art form, right? Like you look at a movie is more like a dream. You sit there and you're in the dream, and time passes, and then once the movie's done, lights go on and you're back into your world. But gaming and the theater does have some immersive elements to it, especially if you look at some, immersive plays. But gaming really allows you, the character, to be the one driving forward the story, right? Or driving forward the piece. And then obviously there's many different ways to do that depending on the game you play, on the type of game you play. But yeah, so for me, that as a creator, that was really the most important piece of like you are experiencing the story, you are actively pushing the story forward, right? And Hollywood doesn't have that, So I haven't never looked back to really. And once I got into gaming, I stayed here.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to talk about a game in particular. I want to talk about Block Lords, right? What is
Yeah.
Block Lords all about, and why is it not only a must-play game but also a revolution?
Yeah. So BlockLords is a medieval strategy game. So it's definitely inspired by games like Total War, Medieval Total War, Age of Empires, Civilization, Crusader Kings. These are the games I grew up playing and that I really spent thousands of hours on. And the goal was really, let's create an MMO experience that captures the best parts of this game, not only the battles, but also the farming and the living your life as a simple farmer, to also becoming a ruler who's going on these epic battles and managing your kingdom. So that's really what drove the story. Uh, Essentially, when we got started in 2018, that was always the idea, right? Like you have a hero, your hero is an on-chain asset that can be traded. You can craft items, you can collect resources based on your gameplay. And then as you craft items, you can trade them with other users for cryptocurrency. And if you become powerful enough and conquer a city, you can actually become a lord or a lady and earn taxes from farmers or fighters who are playing in your land. That was the initial concept. It's been a long journey since 2018. We've gone through a lot of iterations of the game, but I would say that that's really it. What we've aimed to do here is create an MMO simulation game where you start as a farmer, you grind for resources, you toil like a peasant. As a peasant, you actually serve a lord or a lady who's above you that's actually collecting taxes from you. But again, you can have a good lord or you can have a bad lord, right? So you as a player, even as a farmer, you do have influence because depending on which region you choose to farm on, that's going to impact that region, right? You can grow your farm, you can collect more resources. Depending on how your lord is active or not, there's going to be different advantages or disadvantages. And then once you have a farm that's big enough, you can actually start building an army. You can go and raid other farmers, Viking style, steal resources from them, or you can actually protect by farmers from being raided, which will give you some salaries from the lords who are trying to protect their regions. And then at the top of it, you will have the rulers and the kings and the queens, and they're all about power plays, right? So if you watch Game of Thrones, that's really the gameplay. There is you are doing politics, you're forging alliances, and you're going to war against each other. So that's really the vision of the game, is to create an MMO strategy experience where you can be anything from a peasant to a farmer, and really spend a lot of times and a lot of effort into building the world you want to see inside the game.
Kind of explain the crypto ecosystem a little bit. I
Yeah,
see myself as a bricklayer doing a podcast and writing books, and then you have the
yeah,
influencers that with the millions of followers who like people listen to. So very similar.
yeah,
So I want to ask you, it's Bear Slayer season. What does
yeah.
that mean?
So the Bear Slayer season is the current season of the game. It's actually, we're heading towards the end of it. There's only 2 weeks left of the Bear Slayer season. I can start with the Bear Slayer trailer because obviously with my cinematic background, when we raised in 2022 for the project, we had a good budget to allocate towards game development and promotion. We decided to make 3 very epic cinematic trailers. So I don't know if you've seen them. I'll send you the link to one of them, the Bear Slayer one, which we essentially used as the kickoff for this season's launch. It's a really cool trailer developed with our partner Axis Productions, Axis Studios, and essentially it's a huntress in the wood. She's about to take down a moose with her bow, But a bear shows up, and the bear and moose are fighting to the death, and eventually, the bear wins, but now the huntress can take down the bear and call herself the Bear Slayer, essentially. So that was the theme of the trailer. It's a really epic trailer. I do suggest you watch it, and it also fit with our essentially our view on how the bear market, right, was ending, and it was kind of up to all of us, all the players, all the devs, all the crypto degens that are active on X. It was up to all of us to really kill the bear. And what's funny is that that's kind of what happened. So we launched the Bear Slayer trailer in November, and our tagline was, slay the bear, slay the bear. And that's kind of what's happened, right? We're looking at today, Bitcoin just crossed 52,000. People are really excited. There's starting to be some life in the market again, and it does look like the bear has been slayed. So that was kind of the theme of the season. We kind of hit it on we kind of hit it right, for the narrative. We've sold actually 9,000 battle passes, so a lot of our users have been playing the game a lot and really enjoying this type of activities within the game. And basically, what the Bear Slayer season was it was a battle pass, and you could get special rewards for playing. So different types of farming, different types of trading, different types of using your NFT heroes in game would give you EXP, which would essentially give you rewards based on the Bear Slayer battle pass missions, right? And we also have a leaderboard. The leaderboard's been very competitive, and in the leaderboard, people have been able to get tokens and also different types of heroes. So people are kind of grinding their way towards the end of the season now.
Sounds like a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So I want to find out. You mentioned battle passes, right? But you have various types of passes. So I want to find out what your benefits of the different type of passes for you that you have for your players, and how their utility reward tokens have an important role in the Web3 gaming economy.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have there's only been two battle passes for the first season, the Bear Slayer season. That was the free battle pass. That was essentially free. There was still an NFT reward at the end of that, a Raider hero. And then we had the paid battle pass, which was only $10. So that's the one we sold 9,000 of. And that one had some pretty legit rewards, a legacy Bear Slayer, a few Raider heroes as well. And essentially the leaderboard was a big draw, right? Like if you were in the paid battle pass, you could take access to the LRDS, which is the token that will eventually launch for BLOCKLORDS, the LRDS token. People who win the leaderboard would be able to get some rewards. But the battle pass is only a small part of it. We actually just did an LRDS, which is our token, game drop directly inside of the game, which is pretty innovative. I don't think anyone else has done that, in that we decided to reward our most active users, people who have a lot of heroes, people who've been playing a lot with the game, with LRDS, but they can't claim it on chain. They can only use it in game, essentially. So people can lock their LRDS tokens to get influence, which is a currency in the game that's quite important, or they can spend it inside of the game. And something really interesting that we're seeing from the data is that over 70% of the users who received an LRDS drop have chosen to lock up their tokens for an extended period of time. So this is pretty interesting because we can actually see the data and study the data for what users are doing with their tokens before the token is even live. And this is something that's going to make our job as game designers a lot easier, as we can essentially optimize the experience and optimize the way we hand out rewards before the token is even live.
What are your plans for the for the liveness or listing of the token? Do you have a roadmap yet for that?
We do have a roadmap. Timelines I can't divulge timelines essentially because that's quite tricky. But yeah, essentially we're planning quite a few more of these game drops. We have game drop 2 that's going to be in about 6 weeks, and then we have game drop 3, which is going to be a bit later. Our plan is to have 5 game drops this year. I can't really mention exactly when the tokens will be live on exchanges, but it's definitely in the works. And our goal is really to create a great game, get as many users involved, get the LRDS tokens to as many people as possible, and having one of the big launches of the year. That's really all I can say on the timing and how we're planning that out.
That sounds good. You said enough. That's good. Thank you. So you want to really build this out and scale it. And you mentioned a term earlier that I had heard of before, and a few other people told me about it, but I don't really understand it all too well. You said MMO, right?
Yeah.
My first before I ask the next one is, what is MMO?
Yeah, it's a massive multiplayer online. So it's if you heard of games like World of Warcraft or Eve Online, they're MMORPGs, right? So massive multiplayer online role playing game, right? That's an MMORPG. I would say that's the most common MMO type of game. It's an MMORPG. And I'd say we're one of the first MMO strategy games, right? So we've taken the strategy genre, the RTS strategy genre, and the grand strategy genre, and we've combined that into one genre, which is already pretty innovative. But most strategy games are played as single player games. You can look at Total War or Civilization or Crusader Kings. Usually that's a single player experience. You can also do multiplayer versions, but it's still like an instance-based map. So you play for a while and then it's over essentially. What we're trying to do is create this persistent world, an MMO world, where there are many thousands of players. They're all playing in this shared world, not necessarily in the same place at the same time, but the world is essentially the same. The economy is shared, and essentially users come and go from this world, but the world is persistent and keeps on beating on. That's what an MMO is.
Got it. So then your definition of long-term sustainable gameplay would be what?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the greats, right? So Eve Online and World of Warcraft, right? Those are two examples, and RuneScape is probably a third example that come to mind. And these are games that have been running for now 20 years, right? And in 20 years, there's been lots of changes. The gameplay looks different, the economy looks different, the players are certainly different, although not all. You'll have a few players who've been playing all those 20 years, but the games are still standing strong. Eve Online, for example, has 1.5 million monthly active users. That's kind of my internal benchmark for what I want BLOCKLORDS to reach is 1.5 million monthly active users. And yeah, that's success to me. It's to create an online world, a digital world, with a game economy that feels real to people, right? And that people are actively participating in and benefiting from, and yeah, that they're a part of that economy and that world and that narrative and that story, and that's what we see as success. So that's why for BLOCKLORDS, the token release plan is over 10 years, and I strongly expect BLOCKLORDS to be still a name that people play in the next 20 years.
I always love those strategy games. I started out, actually playing King's Quest, and I'm
Oh,
dating myself.
yes.
Hobbit and Legend of Zeal, which was a text game, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
they weren't sustainable from my player perspective, because we finished the game,
yeah,
you're over. You're trying to build
yeah.
sustainability. So from the player perspective, how would a player like join this? Your game sounds really cool. How would the player join your gaming ecosystem, and then see for them that they are supported in building that sustainability and bringing sustainability to the game?
Yeah. So, we're still early in the process. This version of BLOCKLORD has been in active development since 2022. And the game has been live in early access for about 5 months now. So the easiest way to get involved is really to go on the Epic Game Store, download the game. It's entirely free. You can start playing for free. You can start collecting resources for free. You can start building out your farm and your base for free, right? What we've decided, because the scope of the entire game, like I mentioned earlier, that's extremely ambitious. First, we have the farming, then we have the fighting, then we have the ruling, then we have the conquest, and we have so many features in my mind and that we're planning and building out. But yeah, I mean that if you want to be a part of this ecosystem, it's really about playing the game. Just the fact that you're playing the game gives us data that we can analyze and improve the game with. But if you want to go a step further, you can join the community. In the community, you'll meet a lot of like-minded players. A lot of them are starting to, fraction into different guilds and different clans and different regions because again, the lord and lady that you serve, even as a peasant, is gonna have a power struggle of their own, right? And for now, there's not much to do except rule your region and farm inside of the region. But as we're adding battles, so this year there's two very big beats. We're adding the stronghold battles, and we're adding the dynasty system. So the stronghold battles, and when you'll start being able to build armies, go attack others, go steal resources, go fight for land, fight for resources. All of that is happening this year, and that's really when it starts becoming a game changer, right? Because for now, everybody's been focused on farming and then taking care of their own business, right? But soon you're going to be able to grieve others and to protect others from attacks as well. And then we have the dynasty system. And the dynasty system is all about politics, power struggle, and building the ultimate family. And this is, we haven't talked so much about Web3, right? I've been talking mostly about gaming. But on the Web3 side, definitely one part that we're innovating on is the dynasty system, where our heroes are NFTs. Your NFTs are basically characters that have a name, they have a look, they have special skills and traits, they have different abilities. That's essentially somewhat unique. It's randomly generated for many of them. Some heroes are actually entirely unique. They're trading for about, $20,000. There's been like a lot of demand for them on the market, but there's only 50 of them or 60 of them that exist for now. And on the lower end side, you have the farmers. They're mass produced, they're mass generated. There's many thousands of them. They're trading for about $3 or $4, right? And the prices can always vary. We don't really control what the market decides for that. But what's going to happen when we activate the dynasty system is that the clock will start ticking for all of these NFT heroes. These thousands of NFT heroes, both rich and poor, they will start getting older and they will start dying, right? And because you're going to soon die, what you need to do, you need to get married, you need to have kids, and you need to kind of build a legacy that's going to be reflected with your in-game power, right? And that'll be the dynasty system, which is also coming this year.
I like the concept of dynasty. Let's talk about that. You said
Yeah,
that we haven't talked too much about Web3. Let's talk about Web3. Let's talk about
let's
Web3
do it.
and dynasty, right? A lot of things happened in 21 and 22, right? We're just starting to come out of it, right? The gaming sector has been a strength over these last tumultuous couple of years, right? What lessons can the rest of Web3 be take from the gaming subsector to go into this next bull cycle, which we're headed into, hopefully, um, yeah, let's start there, and then I have a couple other questions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, we've been in this space basically since Web3 gaming was invented, right? So we started the company in 2018. So we've seen a lot of ups and downs in how gaming is perceived both by users and by investors in this industry. And I would say 2021 was great because 2021 for us really proved our thesis because we came in 2018, like gaming and crypto is a thing. And then 2021 was all about gaming, right? Like it was really pretty crazy. And I think, there was the whole NFT hype with PFPs. I think that's calmed down a bit, which is quite good. So utility for NFTs has become more important. I would say, most game projects that I speak with and most investors that I talk to agree that too many game rewards are problematic because if you make getting the rewards too easy for the players, that tends to get abused. And then you end up with, malicious actor who essentially just drain all of the liquidity out of the games, right? And out of the token projects. So how to reward users is something that we spend a lot of time on and that we spend a lot of focus on. It's definitely, a big reason why our main locking inside of the game doesn't give token rewards directly. Rather, it gives an influence resource which can then be used to get rewards. And I think really the holy grail is finding a way to reward your best users with tokens, right, or with NFTs. And this is something we spend a lot of time on, and this is something every project spends a lot of time on. So I think definitely now, 2 years later, 3 years later from the last wave, I think most projects are turning into more sophisticated models into how to reward the users, which is very important, right? Because that is the power of Web3. You can reward users and give them access to liquidity with their game assets. I think that is the main appeal. Sometimes Web3 projects try to pretend that they're not Web3 projects, and that the rewards aren't a part of it. But I do think it is important that there are rewards inside of the game for the users. But the part that's too forgotten too often is how do you actually monetize the users and how do you retain the users for a long time so that there's actually demand for those assets that people are rewarded with, right? And so a big part of that is, okay, how do we actually create a game and an ecosystem that people actually want to spend time and money on for over the long term, right? Because if you don't do that, there's no chance users are going to be able to really get anything from their rewards. So I'd say that that's something that the industry has learned and is putting a lot more focus towards. Not sure if that answers your question, but those are kind of my personal observations.
It does, to an extent. I just popped up. It said Bitcoin next is going to be around 55 by the end of the week. I just got our article. Like I said, okay, and maybe it does. Maybe we are headed into a bull market, and maybe my theory is that the three areas that are going to do really well are in the next bull market are gaming, DPIN, and maybe AI, right? What are
Mm.
your thoughts on this head into this next bull? What we should be looking out for, and why should people join your game and other games and have the gaming be a real beacon of light for the next bull market?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I mean I'm biased, right? Gaming is the user onboarding flow of Web3. I believe that strongly. Uh, I'd say there's, if you look at, I've been a DeFi guy my whole life, or not my whole life, for my whole crypto life, right? Since 2018, I've been into DeFi and I love DeFi and I really see a lot of values and I use DeFi almost on a daily basis. But it's just not appealing to a regular Web2 user. It's just not that appealing unless you're into finance, unless you're into kind of degen trading. So DeFi is not going to do it. You're looking at DePIN. I see use cases for DePIN, maybe at like a government level and like administration level. But again, like regular people, I don't see that as that exciting to them unless they're getting something out of it. And like it, but actually DePIN is great for DeFi, right? Because now you can actually start taking loans on your physical assets and you can start, or you can start doing a lot of interesting things. I think DePIN's interesting for sure, but it's not going to bring in the Web2 users either. AI could. My worry with AI is that is blockchain going to make it more efficient? In a way, I'm not sure. I'm not sure blockchain for AI is the right solution. Although there is something to be said about using it to verify being human, right? Because I think that, but I'm definitely not like an expert in AI. I love it. I use GPT a lot. I use Midjourney a lot. We're definitely using it more and more in the company. But again, I haven't seen blockchain AI use cases that really gotten me excited. That said, for gaming, I'm seeing use cases every day. But again, probably because I'm biased. But when it comes to block lords, the reason to get involved, I think just looking at the scale of our game, there's very few games in crypto that have that type of scale. You could compare a few of them, maybe FPS games like Shrapnel and shooter games like Off the Grid and Midnight Society. They definitely have the scale. My worry for games like that is that their token economies are not quite are not quite as attainable, I'd say, as an MMO game. So personally, I'm very bullish on any type of MMO game that has a real living economy that's driven by the users. For me, that's the real kind of potential of Web3 gaming. I'd say Blocklords has the strategy genre kind of locked down for MMO PC strategy. There's a few competitors, that will battle it out with, but there's room for many good games at the end of the day. I think there's hundreds of thousands of games on Steam, and they all coexist. So definitely, I'm not saying nobody people shouldn't play other games, but for Blocklords, if you're into strategy, I think you should definitely try it and see if you like it and help us make it better over time. And as for other games that I'm interested in, I really respect what Axie have done and what they've done with Ronin. They get a lot of flag for being first, but yeah, I'll give them that. They were first and they did it really well. And they're doing a lot of really good things with Ronin. And I kind of look forward to seeing what other projects they're going to launch in the future. And yeah, there's many other games, but I always tip my hat to Axie when I can.
Awesome. So I'm thinking about um, the when I used to build in a SQL shop, right? We did everything iteratively, right? We
Yeah.
made an advancement here, and then the next one. I'm thinking the gaming space is a lot like that. And we talked about Bear Slayer season earlier, and you said you was in the last two seasons of the Bear Slayer season, and I wanted to find out what is next, not only from a gaming season, but what you think is the next iterative move to keep your game and everything
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah, yeah. And so we have exactly that approach. We're very iterative. So we like to develop the game in a modular way. So it's all about the next beat, right? So we're definitely looking at it that way as well. So with the Bear Slayer season, we're definitely planning out the next season. The next season will be a bit more focused on the token because we're obviously doing a lot on the token these days. So there will be quite a bit of focus on that. As I mentioned before, the dynasty system is going to be a huge beat. So we will be doing the dynasty system pretty soon. I'd say in the fall, not in fall, in the spring. I would say that's what we're targeting. And with that, we will be doing a new chain integration as well. As a cross-chain project, we currently support Polygon and Immutable X. We do have other chains that we're planning to support. So with the Dynasty system, there will be a new chain coming out, a new chain integration coming out, which is always exciting and always a new ecosystem to explore and a new way for us to attract users from that ecosystem as well. And following the Dynasty system, it will really be all about the stronghold battles and the battle systems. So these features I mentioned earlier are really what we're focusing on for the rest of this year, along with the token launch as well, which will come at any point between all those things I mentioned. We can't say exactly when it will come out. And then following that, next year, later this year, next year, there will be a lot of focus on the kingdom levels of the game, on the rulership levels of the game, and on the grand scale wars, between players. That's something we're very excited about. And also, of course, a mobile version of BlockLords. The mobile market for gaming is huge, and we do plan to have a mobile version of BlockLords sooner rather than later.
Well, I tell you, definitely got a new player with me. I'm going to check it out as soon as we're done this podcast. And so it sounds really exciting. So I want to thank you very much for coming on today. I really enjoyed this. And I have one last question. It's how can people find out more information about you, about BlockLords? How can they download the game? How can they, become part of your ecosystem and economy and community? How can they do that?
Yeah, so blocklords.com is our website, blocklords.com. We're on Twitter at blocklords. I'm Lord of Blocks on Twitter. I'm not too active, but I'll post and repost some things once in a while. But yeah, to play the game, you go on the Epic Game Store and you search BlockLords. That's really the best way. The game's entirely free. Anybody can get started. Join our Discord, join our Twitter. Those are the best ways to find us and the ways to stay active. And I do urge everyone to give the game a try. And if you don't like it, tell us and we'll improve it. That's really our philosophy, and we've been proving that for the last few years. And yeah, excited to be here and hope I can come back again when we have some more features.
You will. I'll let you back. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Talk soon.